Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry for that small delay. Just want to make sure we got everything working here. Before I'm going to call this meeting to order for a relatively short agenda, which will be followed by a time of the professionals with family and friends. And as is our custom, we'll begin with the singing of the national anthem, after which I will read our Indigenous land acknowledgement statement. So please stand and join me in the singing about Canada. Australia White Star recognizes all of Canada resides on traditional, unceded, and or treaty lands of Indigenous people of Turtle Island. So, our treaty territory is home to many past, present, and future Indigenous families. This acknowledgement of the land is a declaration of our commitment and collective responsibility to reconcile the past, to honor and value the culture, history, and relationships we have with one another. We'll now ask the councillors if anyone has a peculiar interest to declare. Hearing none, we let the record show that there was no name declared. But I need to bring forward a motion to approve the agenda as circulated. Councillor, seconded by Sir Williams. Discussion? Yes, please. I would like to have them item please on the business. Okay, is it agreeable to council that we add that to the agenda? Any opposition? No. Thank you. I'd like to be resolved that the agenda for this meeting be adopted as presented and amended. So that will become item. Well, I don't know, 6.3, I guess. Yes. All right, and any further discussion? All those in favor then? Thank you, that's carried. So the next item that's on the list is Mayor's inaugural address. Once again, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I thought I would take this opportunity to give you a brief statement about the address. It's kind of like the state of the address that begins the session of the U.S. Congress. So only this one will not be so long and not be so pretentious, I promise you. So what state do we find ourselves in based on this side of the General Council? Is that we are, in most respects, in pretty good shape, especially given the tough times we've endured for the past couple of years. Consider the following. According to our auditors, we are in pretty good financial shape, especially in comparison to many other municipalities. Physical assets such as buildings, roads, bridges, docks, vehicles, etc., also in pretty good shape. And becoming subject to sound asset management practices. We are well served by a small but stable and productive staff who have been working together to maintain our essential services throughout the pandemic. It's an ideal circumstances. Thanks for that. Strategic land acquisitions that I believe will serve us well in the future. But to expand and improve several key facilities, including the Nov15 Community Center, the Whitestone Library and Technology Center, this office, nursing station, and some access points. Process improvements have been made to administrative processes in areas such as communications, accounts payable, budgeting, fire permitting. A lot of these are things that you don't maybe don't see right away because they kind of happen behind the scenes, but there's been a lot of good work done there. Working in cooperation, the Recreation Committee and the library have reinstated most of the recreation programs that were suspended during the pandemic, and have added several new ones that are being well received in the community. This past August, we were able to return to a successful in-person fair and volunteer and staff appreciation event. Council and committees have continued to work to update key bylaws. Has grown, including families with children, which has increased the Whitestone Lake Central School. Seeing early signs of economic activity, things like land development applications and building permits. I can go on, but you get the picture. To accomplish time of adversity. So what are the challenges? Let me highlight just a couple. The first one I'll mention has to do with land use planning. But this council term has been marked by increasingly complex development applications, coupled by increasing concern on the part of ratepayers for protection of the special environment that we all cherish. These factors have strained our land use planning processes and resources, which I believe need to be updated to match the complexity of the applications being considered and to meet the needs of our municipality. That the new council will be tasked with overseeing a review of Whitestone's official plan and zoning bylaw, together with our associated planning processes and protocols. Clearly, our challenge is to manage needed cooperation and economic growth in a sustainable way that benefits everyone now and for the future. The second one I want to mention is community engagement. To accomplish the major review just mentioned, and to solicit meaningful input into other important council decisions, we need to find more effective ways to engage members of the Whitestone community. Which is superior service. Social media and email have proven ineffective at soliciting useful input and thoughtful dialogue on important issues. Even worse, they have contributed to disrespectful behavior towards others that has divided our community. Our council meetings are too few and too far apart to do the necessary heavy lifting on the floor of council meetings. So I believe council will need to make greater use of committees and task forces to work through the details and bring forward analysis and recommendations. Whitestone has an enviable record of harnessing the knowledge and skills of volunteers in its governance and program delivery. To expand on it. This will necessitate increased staff and consulting support for community work. So what in the future? Well, I'm bullish about the future of Whitestone. I believe our municipality is poised and well-positioned for future growth and prosperity. The leadership necessary to plan for and manage that growth so that we can enjoy its benefits.
Still continue to enjoy the great things we love about our community for generations to come. It will take some work, but with a genuine spirit of teamwork and collaboration, we can get it done. I'm excited to work with the new council and Whitestone ratepayers to achieve our collective goals. Thank you. Now we have an opportunity for councilors to the members of the new council to make a few remarks of their own if they wish. And so I'll start. What you want me to start, ladies first? We'll start with Janice Spray, and then we'll work our way around.
I thought that sitting in the middle, I wasn't going to be the first person.
Can you move that a little closer,
How's
Janice,
that?
please, just so
Is that
everybody
better?
can hear you? Thank you.
Okay. Anyways, I guess I am the first person again. I'm looking forward to the next 4 years. I think we've got some exciting things that will be happening in our municipality, and I'm looking forward to moving forward with things. I'm looking forward to working with council, and I've got a lot to learn, I know, but I'm a hard worker and I'm willing to learn. I'd like to thank everyone who put their trust in me and voted for me. I will try and do my very best over the next 4 years. Thank you very much.
Brian, go ahead.
Hi, how's everybody doing? Round two at the table. I'd like to thank everyone for showing up tonight. I'd like to congratulate everyone that was elected to council this term. I'd also like to congratulate all of the candidates that put their name forward in the last election, because at times it's extremely nerve-wracking come campaign season for sure. All of the taxpayers that cast a ballot in my favor, I am extremely grateful and truthfully humbled. Thank you very much for your support. I look forward to working with everyone at the table here in the best interest of the whole municipality. And I would encourage everyone to stay involved in council meetings. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Councilor Lamb.
Yeah, I'll be a little more long-winded, I think. So anyway, I don't agree with you, Mr. Mayor, when it comes to social media and your comments on social media. I think it's you're not correct there, but having said that, I do agree with most of the other comments that you made. I too want to congratulate all the candidates who ran in this past election. Josh and Anna and Jade and Kevin, putting your name forward was a very admirable thing to do and shows your love and your strong sense of community within Whitestone, and you're to be congratulated. I want to also personally congratulate Councillors Bray and Nash and Woods on a very well-run and a very principled campaign, and on being elected by the wonderful ratepayers of Whitestone to council. You all went high and you earned the respect and the majority votes of the ratepayers. Mr. Mayor, I want to acknowledge your acclamation to the position of mayor. But I must say that while we went high, you went low with your election letter, and it backfired on you. However, having said that, I pledge to work with you in the interest of and because of the respect that I have for Whitestone ratepayers. But I honestly feel that you need to put this controversy behind you and issue a public apology to Councillor Woods and myself, and quite frankly, to all the ratepayers of Whitestone. Thanks again for electing me to a 5th term on council. We have lots of work to do, some of which the mayor has outlined to you. And there's lots of things for us to accomplish. And I look forward to working collaboratively with all of council. Thank you.
All right, I'd like to thank all the electorate and especially anybody who had voted for me, and I'm privileged to have been elected. I'd like to again congratulate all the councillors who were voted in, Councillor Woods, Janice, Joe, and also congratulate everybody along with the mayor for being acclaimed. I also want to thank all the people that ran for the election, and also the past councillors who are no longer doing it, but I think put in a lot of time and effort over the last 4 years leading to here. Over the next 4 years, I know we're going to have a lot of work to do, a lot to review, and I hope we can all work together and do what's right for the overall community, the community as a whole. And I heard a lot during the campaign, and I think that's a big part, listening. And we all have to remember to do what's right for the overall community, the community of a whole. And I hope we can all do that here for the next 4 years.
All right, thank you. Brings us to item 6, which is 3 business matters. The first one, 6.1, is it's a if you like a draft or a preliminary meeting schedule for the 2023 council term. I guess to follow the proper procedure, what we should do is get a mover and seconder to approve this schedule as presented, or at least we could have some discussion then.
I'll move it.
All right, thank you. Moved by Councillor Nash, seconded by Councillor Bray. Very good. We've got two new councillors on the order paper for the first time here. I would just point out that this and perhaps our CAO Henry will want to will want to make some additional comments about it, but this is a tentative schedule, of course, and you can appreciate that from time to time, we will add other meetings. We generally add meetings in the spring when we're working on the budget, for example, and I anticipate that we'll have a number of special meetings of one sort or another. These get treated as special meetings, and of course, everyone gets notice of them at the time, but this schedule as it stands it has regular meetings in most months on the first and third Tuesday evening of each month. And if we approve this schedule, then there doesn't need to be any further notice of those meetings unless we change them or something. So just so everybody understands what it is we're doing. Are there any comments about this schedule? Councillor Nash.
Yeah, I have a question or a comment. Just when I was looking at it, I know right now we only have one meeting in January and February and March, and I'm guessing under new council, we'll have a lot to work towards at the very beginning. So I was wondering about possibly adding a meeting in January and February. And along with that, in the council meetings I used to attend in the audience, just some discussion about the starting time. And I don't know if maybe we could put some of the meetings, not all of them, but have some start at 6:30, maybe others start at 3:30 for those that can't attend at 6:30. So maybe change the time. And also, I know whenever we have planning matters or other items in the committee of a whole, those meetings seem to take longer. So I was wondering if maybe we could have some meetings that are committee of the whole and other meetings that are not committee of a whole that might be able to take care of more procedural items. And possibly the meetings that are committee of the whole could start at an earlier time and possibly run a little longer than right now. I think we're 3.5-hour curfew. Maybe we could start a meeting at 3:30 and have a 4.5-hour curfew or a 5-hour curfew to get more things on those agendas, knowing there'll be more members of the public to them. Anyways, that's just a talking point of what I think might be a good starting point.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, and one other thing, but I don't know if it comes up here. It's just about possibly getting the agendas out at least a week in advance for everybody. I don't know if we're talking about that here or if that's something that's not sure. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. I was going to mention and forgot that, I mean, if someone on the council has a fundamental problem with a particular dates or times, this would be a good time to get that out of the way, I suppose, so that we could start trying to reshift. Some of you will recall that we used to have our meetings on Monday evenings and instead of Tuesdays, and that caused us to cause two problems. The first problem was that on several occasions during the year, that Monday is a statutory holiday, so that meeting would get moved to the Tuesday anyway. Not that that's a problem, but the second, but that just meant that's, every third or fourth meeting would end up being on a Tuesday instead of a Monday. The second issue was that because it was Monday, it meant Monday was a little bit of a scramble day, and to get all of the the motions and everything organized for the meeting and so on. And so Tuesday made it a little better for staff in terms of getting the material to people and in advance, and a little more time to for counselors to read the material sometimes, which sometimes is quite voluminous. So that's how we ended up on Tuesdays. I guess if there's a problem, maybe we should sort of take some of these ideas in isolation. The first one would be the question of is 6:30 a good start time? And this, again, this is a tradition that we've had. You know, is that time problematic for anybody? Would you rather have 7 or? Councillor Lamb?
Yeah, having been through this a few times, yeah, all the points that Councillor Nash brings up, and certainly I don't think I'm in disagreement. One of the reasons it's at night is, although I happen to be nicely retired, except for this job, there are a lot of people who still work. And, you know, if you're working all day and you like to listen to a council meeting, it's kind of nice to have it at 6:30. If we start having it at 3:30 in the afternoon, I think we might get some blowback from residents who aren't here. If you're retired, you can do it at 3:30 unless you're asleep at 6:30 or 7. You're so I'm not convinced we need to move, certainly not all of our meetings. So that's my comment on I have comments on the other things that Councillor Nash brought up, but are we going to isolate it just to the times? He is right on the committee of the whole. What we used to do was the committee of the whole used to be the second meeting of every month. And the first meeting of every month tended to be the regular council meeting. Hopefully I don't have that backwards, but I think
No,
that's
that's
the way it used to be. And so it might make more sense to back those off a bit, I guess. But again, if we made the committee of the whole, for instance, 3:30 in the afternoon, that's where you get all the community input. And people come with their letters and they want to talk and they want to show up at the community hall, etc. And it might be difficult for those people that are working. So I'm not convinced we need to move the times. I'm not against it, but I'm, you know, kind of two minds with respect to the time itself. So if that's what we're isolating this discussion to, then that's my comments on the time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody who has a real problem with 6:30 if we leave the 6:30? We do on occasion have meetings in the afternoon, like we had some budget meetings that were held in the afternoon. And we might still do that, but it just depends. There are some folks who are tied up with work, I believe. No, I don't know. Anyway, even on the council. So, all right. So the next, Councillor Woods.
Coming back to the time comment, I'm not against or for it. I mean, I can hear what Councillor Nash is saying, though. If we do committee of the whole meetings and we lengthen the meetings, if we started them earlier, it might help us out when we have the meetings where there's a great number of people that want to get involved, right? And I'm not above changing it. If that works for everybody, then it would be fine by me.
Okay, so thank you. Any other comment, Councillor Bray? Okay, I was going to comment that the meetings at which we use committee of the whole, and we have lately, you're right, we have lately tended to have these items in all of our meetings. These are planning items, and the committee, actually the committee of the whole is simply a matter of permitting discussion of items when there is no motion on the floor. For anything else that we do, there is supposed to be on the motion on the floor before we start talking about them. But those are typically associated with planning items, and planning items can be lengthy. And I think one of the things that we've learned over the last couple of years is that if we have a complex or substantive or potentially controversial planning item, that probably should get its own separate meeting. And I will be proposing that to the council when we see that coming, so that we don't end up with because by the time we're supposed to have a curfew at 3.5 hours, as has been pointed out, and by the time we get to the end of that, everybody's tired. We're tired up here, your folks are tired, so, yeah, I think we can work around that kind of thing and try to make sure that that when we think something, there are a lot of people are gonna want to speak to it, then that we give it a special meeting. No, I was going to give our CAO an opportunity to just respond to a couple of other things. The whole issue of getting of the timing of material getting out, that has some, I heard about this in one of the all candidates meetings, but it has some serious implications. And we're probably going to talk about that when we review our procedure bylaw, because our procedure bylaw actually says when these things are supposed to happen. So, but Michelle, if you would like to comment on that, you could.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Firstly, I'd like to say the meeting schedule that you see before you is what council agreed to last year, obviously with some different dates. So that worked for council last year, with the exception, I think we did move to Tuesday last year. That's right. And in moving to Tuesday, council was afforded one extra day to have a look at the agendas as well as the public. Previously, it was Monday, and the same release date was there. We can certainly move up the timing of when council agendas are released to council. And typically council gets to see the agenda for a full 24 hours prior to the public. That's been the protocol, and that gives council a chance to understand what's on the agenda and be prepared for any questions that they might come their way, or an opportunity to speak to staff about council reports that are on the agenda. We can make adjustments to that. If we know what council is expecting, if you want it well in advance of the meeting, it just means all the other timelines, whether it's a closing of a tender, delivery of a staff report to the CAO, delegation requests, all of that gets backed up, and it's all doable. We just need to know what council's desire is in terms of having access to the council agenda in terms of timelines. Interesting, the current procedure bylaw suggests that council gets the agenda 2 days in advance. That's the old way. We've since expanded that, knowing that it's important that council see it well in advance of 2 days. So we've went from 2 days to 3 days, and I think council gets it Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So now it's 4 days in advance. So we can make adjustments to that. We just need to know, because it has an effect on, as I said, all sorts of timelines within the office environment, just to make sure that we can meet council's expectations.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure who was first, Councillor Lana. Go ahead.
Yeah, the procedural bylaw, I would hope, would come to the meeting in December. It's a pretty important document that needs to be addressed right off the bat. So I don't think we need to get into it tonight. I have my own thoughts on, and I agree with Councillor Nash. I think it needs to get out there earlier, and it's just a matter of when you set the agenda, and that sets everything else in motion. So I can foresee it getting into the public's hand on a Wednesday for the next Tuesday meeting. Right now it gets into their hands on Friday night. So it's easily adjusted by setting the agenda on Monday versus Wednesday. So, but anyway, we can discuss all that, I think, when it comes. And I guess my question is the procedural bylaw, which I see as pretty important first step, is that coming to council in December, or am I wrong?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, a draft of a revised
Perfect, thank
procedure
you.
bylaw.
Then all this can be dealt with at that time. Thank you.
And all I was going to say was simply, when I was speaking about getting it out earlier, it wasn't just to council, it was to all of the public. And that's why I was using 1 week in advance, be it to councillors or to public. I think we can all get it at the same time. And I know it would be tricky for tenders or staff reports, and I think after one go at it, I'll call it, after one meeting where you've moved everything forward, everything else would become on the same schedule. So you'd have a really tight time frame probably for the very first one. After that, it would become more of a routine something, but hopefully we can speak about that in December when we have the procedural bylaw.
Okay, I guess the other the other item that didn't come up in discussion so far, and probably everything else can be left for a future meeting, but it's as you know, it was for much of the pandemic, our practice to have meetings that were conducted. There were virtual meetings. And in fact, until the pandemic came, the ability to have a virtual meeting was not in the plan, in the municipal act. So there had to be some amendments made to the municipal act and then to our procedure bylaw to accommodate that. But anyway, since about partway through the summer, we have gone back to having face-to-face meetings here, and there, as you know, there are we certainly make an effort to try to have accommodate people who are participating both remotely and in this room, and it hasn't been perfect, but we're getting better at it, and there's actually some more to come, which I'll get into some other time, not tonight. But I guess the question that I thought might come up was whether or not council wishes to continue the face-to-face meetings all through the winter, when there may be some traveling issues for some of us, even those of us who are sort of half an hour away from Whitestone, from Dunchurch, I mean. So is there does anybody have any thoughts on that particular subject? We don't have to decide that tonight, but I'm just saying. Councillor Nash was first, I think, this time.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think in-person meetings are very important for everybody. And if people want to attend virtually, that's fine, but I know it was a question during the election. I plan to be at as many meetings in person as I can. I think if we're running meetings, we should be in person as well. I think anyways, I don't have much to say other than I think we should always be in person and offer that to people.
Councillor Lamb, thank you.
Absolutely. We need to have in-face meetings in the community hall. Unless we're shut down by the government again. And I have 2 homes, but I've made it to 98% of meetings. I intend to do it in the future, and I intend to do it sitting right here in the come rain or snow or whatever. And if people want to do it by Zoom, then do it by Zoom. A hybrid model is, I think, has been fabulous for the community, because I think we have a heck of a lot more people engaged in our politics than we've ever had before. So I guess Zoom and social media and a bunch of other things is a good thing to play. So thank you.
Hi. Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. I think we need to have in-person meetings as long as we can. I think it's important because I think that's when you really get to see each other and talk to each other, and there's so much more goes on in an in-person meeting than if you're just on Zoom. I think Zoom is handy for people who can't make it, but in-person is really important.
I always liked coming to the in-person meetings. A lot of the times it was only myself and Bob sitting in the crowd, but I always appreciated the in-person meetings, and I think we should stick to it.
Okay, well, thank you. I just thought I'm mostly interested in the response of the counselors, just because I don't want to just get the situation where the only people sitting here at the table are the CAO and me, and everybody else is, all the other counselors are coming in by Zoom. The public, of course, I understand why many of our folks are not going to attend in person during the winter time. But that's, so the commitment to try to do hybrid meetings is I think very important to us. I just wanted to make sure that counselors were not saying, well, okay, once we get to the winter time,
Absolutely not.
we don't want to have to show up. Okay. All right. So can we, without,
I think if I might say, Mr. Mayor, I don't think the chair of the meeting should be zooming it when it's all in person here. I think that's very difficult. And I think you've pretty much, abided by that rule in the last few months. So, but again, I think all this stuff can be addressed when we discuss the procedural bylaw, right?
all right. Well, thank you. In the interest of timing, then, can I put the question to you? Can we accept this as our,
No.
I know.
No.
of
The
our tentative
discussion,
schedule?
the discussion hasn't even been completed yet. You're talking about this schedule?
Yeah.
No,
What,
no.
all right.
I haven't had a chance. Councillor Nash spoke. I haven't spoke. I think we've got a ton of work to do. And when I look here and say, okay, we're gonna have a meeting in December, we're gonna have one in January, one in February, one in March, and see in April, that's impossible. There's too much work to accomplish, starting with the strategic plan. And I could go through a plethora of things that need to be addressed. I would put to you that we need 2 meetings in each of January, February, and March, and they need to be added to the agenda. And they don't need to be in the middle of the month, because the middle of the month is that date is propagated on having only one. I would put to you, for instance, if I've got this correct, that in January, for instance, that we would have a meeting. You can't do it on the 3rd of January, but you could certainly have one on the 10th and the 24th of January. You could have one in February on the 7th and the 21st, which are Tuesdays, and you could have one in March on the 7th and the 21st, which again are Tuesdays. And then you would have a setup of three, and we could barrel into the work that needs to be done. There's a lot of planning issues that are coming at us. There's 3 or 4 huge ones that are being discussed in the community, and they're going to take up some of these meetings. The only other change that I would make to this schedule is that in August, the August meeting, August the 1st, is usually out in Ardbeg, and it has been through the years. And I know Zoom is a little difficult in Ardbeg, but it was set up during the all candidates meeting and I think went okay. So again, I would suggest that we conduct the August 1st meeting out in Ardbeg. It's a huge part of our community with a lot of people out there, and a wonderful community hall, by the way. And so I would suggest that we go back to Ardbeg on August the 1st. Those are personally the only changes that I would make to it, but those are my thoughts on it. So no, it's not. I don't think we should vote on it now. I think we should take a look at what I suggest and other people suggest before we vote on it. Thank you.
Other comments?
I also think that we need 2 meetings for January, February, and March. I think there is an awful lot of work for us to do, and I think for us to be able to, I'm speaking mainly for myself, but maybe Councillor Nash feels the same way as being new, that we need we need to be able to dig into the material to be able to understand it.
Councillor Woods.
I think 2 meetings would be beneficial to us with the amount that we're gonna have to accomplish in this term. I know I said to Councillor Nash not too long ago, buckle up, because we have a whole heck of a lot of work to do. So I think the most meeting times that we can get would be beneficial for all of us.
And I'd have no problem with the dates that Councillor Lamb put out. The only one I'd point out would be the one in March might be tricky with everybody having March breaks and stuff. But certainly January and February would be good, and maybe we can just pick dates that are around March break. And if we did add meetings in January and February, I don't know if we could just think about maybe doing those meetings or the one in March if we added as well. Maybe trying those 3 meetings at an earlier time just to see how it goes. Keep all the others for the year at 6:30, but maybe try a couple at an earlier time and just see what comes of it for another year.
So are you, what's your suggestion? Are you wishing to defer this to another, to the December meeting, or do you want to just amend, just add, change the meetings for those 3 months?
I have no problem with bringing a motion forward to say, could we change the January 17th to, I think you'd said January the 10th, and adding a meeting on January the 24th and changing the February 14th meeting to the 7th, and then having a second one in February on the 21st, and having the January 10th meeting maybe at 4 o'clock and the February 7th at 4 o'clock. And I don't have a date here for March, but what date were you thinking, Councillor Lamb, for March?
For 7th and the 21st. I just split from the 14th. I just.
Yeah. So maybe one of those could be at 4 o'clock as well.
What about Ardbeg?
Oh, and do Ardbeg in August if that's what people would like, no problem.
Don't forget Ardbeg.
Makes it a much shorter drive for myself.
Right, so I will ask our CAO, is there anything problematic with changing the dates in the first 3 months that's going to cause a problem for us that you can see?
I'm not seeing anything that would be difficult. The January 10th meeting will probably be light because from a perspective of preparation, even now, prior to changing when agendas are delivered, we're pretty well complete with the agenda a week before, and it's just a matter of tidying things up. So a week prior to the 10th is the a week prior to the 10th. Let me just check my calendar here.
The 3rd.
Is the 3rd. That's the first day back after vacation.
Maybe we make that one.
So it'll be whatever we have prepared in late December. And there's usually correspondence and business matters and items to be attended to.
I don't suppose it affects anybody here, but school goes actually back on the 9th of January. That
I wish it affected.
I'm okay.
Yeah, okay, all right. Well, so the suggestion is now, I'm not sure that there's consensus around changing the times of them, but I thought we kind of settled on 6:30, but let's just do with the dates. It's an amendment is proposed to change those 3 months to the having a meeting a week before each of the dates that's there, and the week after each of the dates that's there, and to just make the notation that the August one is in Ardbeg. Let me sort of take just a straw vote on that if I can. Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
All right.
Could we check out the time and see what people feel?
Well, we're going to that next.
I don't mind doing that. I just wanted to do them separately so we don't
Okay.
mix everything up and have people voting something down for the time. All right, so your proposal, Councillor Nash, was to make what, if the second meeting start at 4 o'clock?
Yeah, either the first one of the month or the second one of the month start at 4 o'clock. Doesn't matter to me, whatever people
But if
might
you,
think.
and you're assuming that that could go then to 7:30 or whatever, without realize there's not gonna be supper.
Yeah.
Or anything like that,
Yeah,
right?
I have enough on me that I can. wait
Okay.
out.
I just want to make sure everybody understands.
So I guess,
Well,
let's do the second meeting of every month starting at. 4.
all right, so that's the proposal. Can I? Can-
The only problem with that is, again, if we're gonna follow what we've always done, the second meeting of every month is the planning issues, right? So as long as we know that, if textile plants or whatever, Bolger Landing or any of these things come up, we're gonna be discussing those and deciding those probably starting at 4 o'clock in the
So let's
afternoon.
do the first meeting now.
The first meeting of the month is what I would call a regular council meeting. And that's where the public, other than at the end, they ask questions. That's more our business meeting of getting the work of council done. So I would suggest that's, if you're gonna make one 4 o'clock, that we take that one and leave the second one open so that people who want to talk can talk, and if they're working, they can still talk at 6:30. So that's my 2 cents worth. And I'd give it a try for a couple of them and, see how it goes or whatever. So
But thank you. Can I understand what the rationale is though for doing something at 4 o'clock?
Well, I
I
think
mean, that's, I,
well, to me, I was just thinking, just because we did something at 6:30 all the time, and I think you said it was the norm, doesn't mean it has to be the norm. And with social media, like with Zoom calls, or not social media, Zoom calls and everything, people are more engaged than ever, and getting on a call at 4 o'clock is probably just as easy as 6:30, but also at 6:30, you might have younger, I'm not me because my kids are older, but younger families putting kids to bed, and you might have people that can't make it at 7:30 or 8:30 or 9:30, and they prefer it to be earlier. So part of my rationale to changing it was, if we have some earlier, you might get some people that can be on the call earlier or attend that might not be able to attend at 6:30. And when we go late, if we're 3.5 hours and we're going past curfew and a meeting's finishing at 10 or 10:30, I think you'd probably have more productive work than if that meeting was at 4 and pushed and finished at 7:30 or 8 o'clock. So I think those are just my thoughts, just to try and see how it went. Nothing more than that.
okay, well, I guess I'd have to say, that puts the meeting right over top of the supper hour, and normally supper hour is a time. I certainly to try to avoid having meetings in the supper hour. I just don't, that's family time. So I'm not sure that it's gonna benefit anybody. Some people it might be able to come early, but the item that they care about may be on at a time that's not convenient for them. And I think at least you're not interfering with people's supper plans. At 4 o'clock, some people are at work and they're not gonna be able to make it. So, if their item is up at the beginning, which is when, well, anyway.
I'm not trying to get.
I guess I'm saying I'm not convinced of the merits of this, speaking personally. Anyway, is there any other comments people want to make about this? Can we just have a straw vote on it then, please, and see what people think? Do you want to incorporate some of these, do you want to try meetings at 4 o'clock?
I don't mind trying a couple.
Well, okay, show of hands if you want to do this, please, because
Either way, I'm okay. I'll show up on whatever time or date we want to do it, whatever works best for everybody else. No big deal to me.
Okay, so I'm trying to find out, though, I'm treating this as an amendment and trying to find out if it's going to get traction or not. So I need people to say yes or no, if you don't mind.
I'd be for it.
I don't see any hands going up, so I'm gonna say it's a no, right?
No,
right.
I'm for,
All right.
I'm for trying it for a couple of meetings is what I said, so.
All right, so,
I don't mind trying it for a couple of meetings. I do think 4 o'clock is a difficult time, especially for people, but we can try it and see. It just really makes it hard for anybody who's working, who wants to come.
Why don't we just try one in January, and one in February?
Yeah.
See how it
Okay.
goes. If we have the one in January and we don't think it works out, we could just change the February back to regular time.
January 10th is going to be a light agenda anyway, so we have those two meetings, and if the public then weighs in and says we don't like it or we don't want it, then we can always change it, because at least January and February is not gonna break the system, right? So I'm okay for January and February for the first council meeting of the month to start at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'll second.
all
amendment
right,
or
well,
whatever.
we can, if that's the. If that's the will, we'll try it and see what happens, I guess. So that one's all right, so the motion then. That we have has been changed, which is to approve the. Assuming the mover and seconder are okay with this as we've amended it, is to approve the schedule as presented with the following changes. So the meetings would be as they are listed here with the following changes. First of all, first meeting is January 10th at 4 o'clock. Second meeting is January 24th at 6:30. Third meeting is Tuesday, February Tuesday, February 7th at 4 o'clock. Next one is Tuesday, February 21st at 6:30. The third one is Tuesday, the next one is Tuesday, March 7th at 6:30, and the next one after that is March 21st at 6:30. The rest of them are at 6:30, and the one on August 1st is in Ardbeg. So what we have?
Bingo.
All right, so can I call the question now then? Does anybody else want to speak to it? No? All those in favor, please indicate. All right, thank you, that's carried. Okay, the next item. Well, it's listed as correspondence, I guess, but anyway. I'm sorry, go back to this. Copy X 6.2 is counselor orientation and strategic planning, and there isn't anything here with. But there are some, I do have some notes about it. The first one is to remind the council that there are two sessions. There, if you like, or education or orientation sessions that are planned. And they are on Wednesday, November the 23rd from 6 to 9 p.m. And Tuesday, November the 29th from 6 to 9 p.m. And they are featuring our integrity commissioner, who is talking about responsibilities of counselors and so on. And this is, everyone is very strongly encouraged to attend these sessions. I think you'll find them very interesting and informative. And so that's that you've already received, everybody's already received notice about that. I'm just mentioning it to you, reminding you. The in addition to that, there are two other orientation sessions that the CAO and I have talked about that we usually do. And the first one is, well, actually, I'll let our CAO tell you about it, I think. You did send something out to people about that, did you not? Or?
No, I don't think I.
Oh, okay, all right.
No.
All right, so you're
Thank
hearing
you.
about it for
thank
the first
you,
time.
Mr. Mayor, what I had in mind for an additional counselor orientation session is to have our senior staff come to council and talk briefly. And I don't mean, half an hour, I mean 10-15 minutes and tell them a little bit about the work that they do and initiatives that they're working on. And I would include our bylaw enforcement officer in that as well, even though that's a contract position, our treasurer, our CBO, and I feel like I'm forgetting someone. I hadn't thought about John Jackson, but I could certainly invite him. So that and then what I call domestic matters, a brief discussion about our org chart that new counselors may not be aware of who reports to who, and some of the bits and pieces administratively that might be of interest to council. And I don't expect that to be a lengthy meeting. I'm thinking probably 2 hours at the most. And that's for me, other than what I've been able to organize through John Mascaron, who's the integrity commissioner, that's kind of an internal type of meeting that would introduce council to some of our staff and what we're doing.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, is that an open meeting or a closed meeting?
It's a closed meeting normally. It falls under the purposes of council training, council orientation in the municipal act.
Yeah, because if the bylaw officer is going to brief us on what he may be working on, we don't necessarily want to do that in open, do we? So that makes sense to me. Thank you.
It could be either, and if it is an open, there'd be an adjustment to the discussion. If council wishes it to be closed, if it's under the terms of the closed session for municipal act, and maybe more interesting for council if we did it that way.
Did you have a date set up by chance?
I don't. I believe the mayor is going to talk about some dates in a minute.
Well, that's the reason we're doing this now, is because we were hoping to try to get these sessions done as quickly as we can, even possibly get them done before we have the December 13th, is the meeting? Yeah. Am I right? Yeah. Yes, December 13th. Sorry, so there's also, I'm suggesting that we have one more of these meetings, and the purpose of this would be to provide information to councilors about a number of things. Some of them would be things that, and they were in the memo that went around, it said something about strategic planning. That was not that was not the term that was intended. They're more a question of councilors identifying their getting an understanding of the scope of some of the other things that we do. Like, for example, we have a number of committees that people get appointed to from different municipalities that are done at the regional level. Things like the Parry Sound Area Planning Board that you mentioned is one of them. There are a number of other ones, Belvedere and so on, that have come up in discussion. And the thought was this would give us an opportunity to brief councilors on some of the things that are going on, so you would have a little bit more background and be able to decide, whether you're interested in participating in any of these particular things. So I guess what we were looking for was a couple of dates when we could have, again, a meeting, not long meetings, but put them in between the ones that we have. The 23rd and the 29th are cast in stone because they're based on the availability of Mr. Mascaron. But we could, my question is, could we get some other days? What other days would work for people? You know, in between then and the and the 13th. And I'm not, well, anyway, are there days that are not? Are these things that could be done during the day? Would you rather have them in the evening, like? So I'm trying to get a sense of when we can do this. Councillor Nash, you had your hand up first, I think.
I just had a quick comment. If we already have the integrity commissioner speaking to us on the 23rd and 29th, I think you said from 6 to 9. I might propose that maybe we could meet as council before that. During an afternoon, I'm throwing out a time 3 to 5 or something like that, the same day. I don't know if that might work. Just an idea.
Sure. Councillor Lamb.
Yeah, my comment is that when it comes to committees and the debate of who goes on what committees, that should be a public process. Like that normally would take place as part of, say, the December council meeting.
It will. That's why we're trying to have this.
No, I realize, but I mean, that's not a huge item. It's, why wouldn't it just be a line item on the December 13th meeting so that the public who show up to the meeting, one of the items will be committee assignments, and we'll debate it at that time and we'll decide who wants to be on whatever committees. I don't see us having a special meeting some afternoon to do that. I mean, why are we, you know, I agree with the first thing about, you know, the senior staff and whatever, but this other isn't, in my opinion, isn't called for a special meeting. It's just part of regular council business that can be done on December 10th in public when the public is here. I don't see the need for a special meeting on that one. So.
Well, there is though some background information that you don't have, and this is an opportunity for you to get it without having to.
What background information? I've been here
Kind-
5
kind of-
times going through this stuff.
Hmm.
Well, you know, if there's confidential stuff, is that what you're saying?
Well, some of it is, yeah, some of the Belvedere stuff. For
Well,
example.
what I'm saying to you, tell us the confidential stuff in confidence, okay? But we should not be saying, okay, who wants to be on the planning board? Who wants to be on this? Who wants to be on that? Behind closed doors. That's totally inappropriate. It's got to be a public process where everyone in the public gets to see what we do, not behind closed doors. I don't agree with it. It's not right. I'm not even sure it's correct.
Okay, well, I think you're missing the point. The discussion about it is.
Well, then
gonna
you better
take place
explain
on-
yourself better.
I am trying to explain myself, maybe. Why are you pointing?
Because
I'm talking to
had
you.
your hand up.
Go ahead.
I wanted to just comment on it. I think that, you know, it could be beneficial to have an earlier meeting or something. Unfortunately, your days that you picked, Councillor Nash, won't work for me, but anyways, to get more information about the committee, especially for somebody like me who doesn't have all the information. Perhaps maybe you, Councillor Lamb and Councillor Wood, you already have all that information, so you might not need to have it, so that's okay. So is there a way that we can make it so that, I'm not sure, Councillor Nash, what would work for you, but is there a way we could do it even in a written form or some other thing, or or more easily, so that we don't create a whole new meeting? We just do the update on what the committees are, so that we have that information before we come to the December 13th meeting, so that we're not having to get all of that information at that time as well. That would be my suggestion, and perhaps it only really pertains to Councillor Nash and myself, who don't have that background information.
Okay, well, we still have to find a time to schedule the meeting that the that the CAO referred to a minute ago.
Through you,
And
Mr.
I gathered the time that the time that Councillor Nash suggested is not suitable for everybody. Trying to double it up with with one of the training sessions.
I was just gonna say through you, Mr. Mayor, what dates might work for yourself, Councillor Gray?
Well, if you're going to look for a daytime one, that's a little bit more difficult for me, but, you were suggesting the 23rd. I would be able to do it probably on the 24th maybe, or during the day sometime on the 25th, but, if that's the week you're sort of looking at, or the 28th, Monday.
Okay, so 24th and 24th and 28th are okay days. Would they be for everyone else who wishes to participate?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I could not do the 24th, but the other days would work just fine.
Sorry, the 28th, and did you have another one, Councillor Bryan?
Yeah, I said the day on the 25th sometime, not after, in the afternoon would work.
Oh, the 25th is a Friday, eh? Yeah. So, but how about the 28th? Does that sound like a? All right, let's try that one out. And what start time do you want? You want 6 like the other one, or you want 7, or? You want-
Would we want staff to be able to do it during regular hours or after hours? Maybe.
You're not available during the day though, right? Are you? Oh, okay, so. Does that sound like a plan to you, Madam CIO? So I'm looking at, what do you want, 3 o'clock, 2:30? Okay. 2:30. It is. Orientation. All right, I think that's. Particular item. Okay, so,
Mr. Mayor.
6 point,
Yeah, I just want to make sure that's just to educate whoever wants to come on the various committees and their functions and that sort of thing. It is not, and again, this is a question, it is not to determine the council assignments to the various committees.
it's not to
Am I correct?
determine anything. It's not, there are no resolutions or anything. It's to convey information.
Okay, thank you. Answer my
Councilor.
question. Thank you.
6 point, sorry, go ahead.
Something just occurred to me. I'm sure it's fine, but we just have to double check that the community center isn't already booked on that day. And I will confirm that first thing tomorrow.
All right, so the other item we had was the one that Councillor Lamb requested, that was 6.3, which was about. I'm not sure what it was about, sorry.
Yeah, I'll speak to it. Yesterday, on our website and on then transferred to social media was a call for volunteers on our various committees of council. And I think this has kind of regularly been done, but I think in this case, it's certainly don't want to be critical of staff, but we haven't even discussed what committees of council we want. Do we want to amalgamate some of these committees? Do we want to add more committees? I think what should happen is that And I'm not saying take it back or anything like that, although there was no deadline for applications. I think what needs to happen again on December the 13th is that as part of the agenda, the terms of reference of all these committees need to be disseminated to councillors and to the public. And as part of that agenda that night, I think we need to discuss council's thoughts on the committees and whether they have any other committees. And again, I could give you examples. I don't want to go into it, but you know, we had an agricultural committee that was basically to make up I call it the chicken bylaw, but that's been presented to us. But we may want to change that term of reference to involve more farm things, and we also have the walking trail. There's a number of committees. So I think there's a discussion we need to have that we haven't had yet as council, and I'm just pointing that out so that on December 13th, I would request that we put onto the agenda the committee structures so that we can have a discussion at the council table, because there may be other committees that people want to instigate or start. I know during the last council, we started the Environmental Stewardship Committee, which I think is fabulous. And I think they've done some fabulous work. So there may be other committees that we want. And anyway, we just need to have that discussion. And, you know, so some of the applications, if we got, for instance, got rid of a committee, I'd hate to have people applying for a committee that we're going to not have. So I just think we need the debate in December, and that's my only point. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. I didn't realize that there was a draft motion related to what we just talked about. So maybe I can just get a mover and seconder for the record here, that the following dates be approved for council orientation, and it's Monday, November. It should really say the additional date, I guess, because the other ones we've already got, but or we can put them all together if you want. So Wednesday, November 23rd, 6 to 9 p.m. is the Integrity Commissioner. When Monday, November 28th at 2:30 p.m. is the councilor orientation that our CAO referred to, and Tuesday, November 29th, 6 to 9 p.m. is the Integrity Commissioner, again, the second half of his. So could I get a mover and seconder for that, please? Just for the record. So I've got moved by Councillor Wood, seconded by Councillor Bray. All those in favor, please. Wave your hands. Thank you. All right. So we've captured that on paper. And the final item I guess we have is the correspondence, which there were some items that are listed on your agenda, and they mostly have to do with, I think, training opportunities. Am I right?
Yes.
Anyways, can I get a mover and seconder, please, that for this motion? Whereas Council of Municipality Whitestone has reviewed the correspondence items as listed on page 3 of the November 15th, 2022 council agenda. Now therefore be it resolved that council received the correspondence items for information with the following extracted for further discussion or action. And I get a mover and seconder, and then we'll populate them if you wish to discuss any of them. Populate the list. It's moved by Councillor Wood, seconded by Councillor Lamb. Are there any of those items listed that you wish to pull out for discussion? Sounds like not. So I will say none. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And that brings us to our confirmatory bylaw. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Lamb moves. Councillor Wood seconds. That bylaw is 6022 being the confirmatory bylaw for the council meeting of Tuesday, November 15th, be given a first, second, third, and final reading and is passed as of this date. All those in favor? It's carried. Who would like to move adjournment? Councillor Gray would like to move adjournment, seconded by Councillor Woods. Be it resolved that this meeting be adjourned at looks like 8:10 PM. All those in favor? All right, thank you. We stand adjourned until until these meetings that we just agreed to that are in November, and our next regular meeting is December the 13th. Same time, same place. And thanks everybody for your attendance this evening. We have some refreshments. Enjoy.